Welcome to First and Goal, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Get ready for the latest and hottest topics in the SML. Let's get started. Here's your host, Mad Bomber.
What's going on, SML? First and Goal is back, and we've got a couple newish guys. ZBD's on. This is, I think, his second time. We've got Dump is back. He's been back in SML for a short time. He's already back on First and Goal. And then we've got already Steel Curtain getting in before some of the other new guys. We've got some guys that have been in since last cycle that we haven't seen yet, and already got Steel on here. All right, guys, I'm going to jump right into this. We're going to start first down, and we'll start with you, Steel, as the newest of our group. Thoughts on the bottom 5 teams, their picks consistently being traded to playoff teams. What do you think about that?
I was pretty vocal in Primer about this. I believe it is probably the worst type of trade that could ever be made in Madden franchise. You are pretty much getting the least amount of value possible before a number is assigned to the pick. And you end up giving the playoff team a cheap elite player for another 4 years. So I'm okay with them trading the picks if they would just wait until a number is assigned to it. Once that happens, you can get the correct value. But until that happens, it never works out. I haven't seen it happen yet where it makes sense to me.
Okay. Dump, what do you think?
I think 9 times out of 10 is a terrible trade. I think there are a few exceptions. If you're a guy that traditionally picks in the top 5 and just say the draft class isn't loaded at like linebacker or corner, something of value, then maybe I think about trading it if I can get something of value back. Don't trade it for a quarterback. Don't trade it for a running back. You can get a running back dime a dozen. I had the 14th pick this year, which is higher than I'd like to have. But, Stavo was trying to get me to trade my first for his normal dev running back. And I wasn't going to do that because I can get much higher value out of the draft. So you just got to think about the value you can get. And traditionally, though, if you're a guy that picks top 5 every year, you're going to need all the ammunition you can get to make your team better. So 9 times out of 10, I'm against it. Keep the pick. Not a good idea to trade.
All right, and Adam Schefter over there, what do you think? And you're muted. And you're still muted. Anybody hear ZBD?
I hear him on my end.
Oh. All right, ZBD, back out of the chat and then come back in. See if that works.
Okay, we're going to try this again. Can you hear me now?
Yep, got you now. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because I was asking earlier, your move is in, a couple weeks? But no, I had to take that call. That was family calling to let me know when they're getting back in town tomorrow. As far as bottom 5 teams picks going to consistent playoff teams go, as somebody who did make a move like that with you a couple seasons back, Bomber, I'm of 2 minds on it. On one hand, I agree with Dump completely. These teams are at the bottom of the league. They need all the help they can get, and they need all the picks that they can get. But in some cases, the draft class may just not line up with what they need. And on the other hand, I think that there are people in the SML, you, Prime, Dan, who are very good at developing players and are also very good at selling people on what those players can bring to their teams. And I think in some cases, these bottom 5 teams don't really think it through very well. And so they see a player who could help them, and they're just going to go for it. So while I don't really approve of it, I tend to think that you need to have, if you're a bottom 5 team, you need to have the ability to add that talent. I can understand why they would do it. I just personally think that I wouldn't do it very often myself, unless it's like a case like yours in my trade a couple seasons back.
Okay. So topic 2, we'll start with you, Dump, on this one. So there was a little talk in between seasons while we were waiting for the off season to finish up, and it was similar to what we talked about last cycle when Matt won his Super Bowl and then didn't win again. How much does the Simbardi matter in the cycle awards? If you just have like one Simbardi and really nothing else on your resume, how much does one Simbardi matter? Dump.
In this case, one Simbardi, it's kind of relative to what you do. I think it's the total of the cycle. If you have one Simbardi and you don't make playoffs half the other seasons, then you didn't have a great year. You just had one good run. If you make the playoffs every year, make a couple of deep runs, only get one Simbardi, then it matters a little bit more. So I think you got to look at the totality of your work. And also, one thing, I think we need to look at division strength. If you have a weak division, no competition, you're making the playoffs every year automatically by default because you're in that bad division. Then you sneak in, win one Simbardi, then you probably didn't have that great of a cycle. Especially with this Madden, we know defense is hard. We know a lot of things just Madden decides. So it's easy to sneak in. It's easy to go on a little run and win that. So I think you got to take that into consideration and look at the totality of their work and what they did all cycle, and not just one good run. 'Cause anybody can do that.
All right, ZBD, what do you think?
I remember us talking about this at the end of last cycle coming into this cycle, and my mindset really hasn't changed. Me, I think a Simbardi, it acts as a sort of tiebreaker between people who have had consistent excellent seasons, one after the other. If you've had an excellent cycle and you haven't really missed playoffs and you just made deep run after deep run after deep run, to me, a Simbardi acts as a separator between between those who have done that and those who have not, and between multiple people who have done that. If you have a Simbardi, to me, that's going to be a tiebreaker of sorts.
Okay.
But
Steele, what do you think?
that's just my take.
So I believe the Simbardi win should be valued the most out of anything, but then followed by Simbardi appearances, conference game appearances, playoff win percentage, and then regular season win percentage. So while one Simbardi could definitely put you above other people, if you, for instance, make 3 or 4 of them, I think the case could be made that you definitely had a better cycle. Or if you went to 6, 7 conference game appearances, I mean it's a big deal. So while it should be weighed the most, it's not all that matters.
Good, I like that. All right, so ZBD, we'll start with you. Topic 3. Roughly 4 seasons left. If we go historically, we've been hitting 9 since we've been starting before the first update. Will we get a new Simbardi winner? Right now, it's myself, KP, and Prime have the only 3 Simbardis.
I was gonna say,
Prime has a stranglehold on the NFC. We just lost Dump for a second, but that's
Dump
fine.
just dropped for a second. Yeah.
So, will we have anybody new? And if we do, who is it going to be?
For clarification, does new mean people who haven't won it in a previous cycle, or
Not
is
me,
it
KP,
just...
or Prime.
Okay. I think there's a chance. I mean, I think out of NFC side, it's going to be rough to stop Prime to get there. I mean, when you look at that, you've got Soda, Stavo, and Prime in a triumvirate, and Prime's just been on fire this cycle, like to a degree I don't think I've seen.
Mhm.
You know that better than I have. AFC side is where things can get a little bit more interesting because I think that Dan's been knocking on the door, but he just hasn't been able to finish. QP's good. Obviously, you're good. But I think AFC side, you have a greater possibility of somebody coming out of there who we haven't seen. And if they get into that game, if they catch whoever comes out of the NFC on a day, I mean, anything can happen at that point. So,
Okay. Let's see. I think Dump, you're next.
All right. I think we're going to see a new Simbardi winner. I'm going to take it even further. Someone who's never won before. And I'm going with my boy, AJ. He's played his best season of probably his career last season. He had a good run. He's building up that New York Giants team. He has a strong rushing attack, which always helps deep in the playoffs. Once you get in the playoffs in the SML, you got to be able to run the ball. So I'm going with AJ, first ever Simbardi in his career. He's going to get it done. Let's go, AJ.
Okay. And Steele, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe we'll see a new winner for the remaining of the cycle. I think the obvious choice in the AFC would be Dan. I mean, if you end up making 3 to 4 championships, you're bound to win one, right? It's bound to happen. Uh, on the NFC side, I'd probably go with the same family. I think young Hurts could put it together. I think he's one of the guys that doesn't let Prime beat him before the game starts, which I've seen in chat now being here a little bit. So I think out of them two, I think one of them will probably end up winning one out of these last 4 or 5 we have left.
Okay. All right. So last topic, we'll start with you, Steele. And this was kind of with Stavo was supposed to be on the show, but he had stuff come up. So, but you guys have seen guys don't generally show up from Primer and have immediate success. Steele, you've got a losing record right now. I think 2-3, I think, as your total for the entire time. Yeah. ZBD, you had struggles. I mean, you were top 5 pick. Dump, you struggled a little bit. You also didn't play much Madden, but we saw Stavo when he first came up. He was like 1-4.
Yeah.
Probably not intentional, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think, or what do you think is the difference that causes that struggle in the beginning before guys get settled in?
I think the first obvious thing is that there's a clear talent gap between Primer and SML. So right now in Primer, there's like a third of the league is people that used to be in the SML that I don't believe any of them had great records, some of them even very bad records. So the competition just is less. That's just the truth. There's really no other way to look at that. I also think coming in season 6 for me, I mean, the team isn't the best. I do think teams matter in Madden. I don't think I don't think it'll turn a bad user great or a great user bad, but I think having good linebackers, good receivers, good players, I think it does matter. So I'm struggling to put together a team that I like, and hopefully I'll be able to do it before the cycle ends. Because right now, I don't believe this Rams team is all that great in Madden.
Yeah.
Okay. ZBD, you seem to have a lot to say over there. What do you think?
This is the one I was thinking about the most since I heard it. Because I think back on last cycle when I came up initially from Primer into SML and I inherited the Chargers from QP, and I didn't do badly. I mean, I made it to the playoffs a few times. But I think Steele's right in that I think in Primer the talent level isn't as top to bottom as it is in regular SML, and that's one thing for sure. I feel like in SML your mistakes are punished a lot more often than they are in Primer. Like in Primer you can get away with throwing a risky ball and getting it picked off because most Primer users, no offense to them, aren't going to punish you for it. Whereas in SML, that pick is either going to turn to a pick 6 or you're going to pay the price for it on that next drive. Mistakes are capitalized on. I think in SML, people scout their opponents a lot more frequently than they do in Primer. It just feels like the talent level is a lot higher in SML, and you can't afford to make as many mistakes. Heck, even if, to build off of Steele's point about the team mattering, if you make a mistake with your roster building, like I know I did earlier this cycle, like my first two off seasons might as well have been just a wash, and I've been struggling to play catch up since. So, like, I think mistakes and errors are punished so much more regularly up here in SML, and you face a much steeper slope trying to make up for those.
All right. Dump, you've kind of seen both sides of the fence. I saw you make a comment in chat earlier about you had something to say, but you were saving it for a podcast. Maybe this is it. What do you have to say?
This is it. Obviously, the low hanging fruit is the talent level. So I'm going to get past that quickly. That does play a factor. I think there's a few other things. The first thing, coaching abilities. If you come in now from the primer and come in late, you're way behind. I only have 4 unlocked. Those things matter.
Yeah.
Going into that, having 6 is a huge advantage. Having higher coach level is a bit of advantage for this cycle. So I think speaking in this Madden, with Steel, that would be the example. I also think the dedication overall of the SML is much higher than the primer. In primer, you have guys that are just fine with being in primer, which there's no issue with that, but they're not putting in the level of dedication and they're not as invested in winning as people in the SML. The SML has 32 users, are fully invested in winning, fully invested in the day-to-day activities, so their focus is laser sharp. In primer, you don't always get that, and you have guys bouncing in and out constantly. So SML is consistent. SML
Yeah.
learns, like we said, they study. And lastly, I think you just get a better scouting report. And when you come into the SML, you're going into 31 guys that know each other pretty well. Well, you're
Yeah.
the odd person out. You don't know anybody. You don't know any of their tendencies. So it takes a while to pick up on how different guys play.
Mhm.
Whereas going in, you're going to get figured out quickly. It's going to take you longer to figure them out, so you're at a disadvantage. So, definitely those 3 things is what I would say in totality. On top of everyone's already more talented in the SML than the primer.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. The only thing I would add is just like, Steel doesn't know everybody. Nobody knows Steel. So
Yeah.
it's a little tougher.
The one thing I would say to that bomber as well, though, is that given how many times Steel made the Primer Super Bowl back to back to back, like the reputation for him was at the reputation and the hype for him when he came up. A lot of people had very high expectations of him, and it wouldn't surprise me if people went back and watched some of those games in order to get a read on what he may have been thinking.
Oh, I believe
Because
it.
I remember talking, not necessarily to you, Bomber, but I've talked to Steele about it when I was adminning in Primer. And I remember telling them, "Hey guys, SML is a different level from here, and if you get that call up, you better be ready to go."
Yeah, you can definitely tell there's a difference in the competition level at the very least.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for tonight's show. And with 62 points, Dump is our winner. So, Dump, these 10 seconds, all yours.
Let's go. All right. You young guys talking about us old guys can't play. Well, guess what? None of y'all make some bardies. None of y'all win some bardies. It's Bomber. It's Prime. It's KP. It's Dan. It's the same OGs to the top over and over and over. So prove me wrong and make one before you go talking.
Damn, you just called Prime old. But that's going to do it for this night's episode of First and Goal. Have a nice night, guys.
Thanks for listening to First and Goal. Be sure to check out Mad Bomber TV on Twitch and YouTube for the latest from the SML. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.